Welcome back to the West Texas View. I'm Johnny Lou Avery, and our guest today is Colonel James Avery, retired Army colonel. And before the break, we were talking about paybacks, and I wanted you to tell one story because you, I know that you are doing a real unique kind of volunteer in the public schools in the area that you live about Vietnam. Because you had how many tours of duty in Vietnam?
Well, I only had one tour of Vietnam. It was 1972. But very few of the teachers have served in Vietnam because it was so long ago. Well, that's required for your U.S. history to cover that particular block. And I have gone to the history department head to say, could I just talk that block? Could I teach that block? And,
free of charge.
Free of charge. I'd expect nothing out of it. I'm not an expert. You know, an expert, a definition of an expert is a drip under pressure.
Yeah, right.
And I don't really think there's an expert on Vietnam per se because it lasted so long and so politically involved in just a lot of aspects of that. I just don't think there's an expert. And I'm certainly not one, but I did serve in Vietnam. So I asked the teachers if I could give a Vietnam block. And they said, oh yeah, we'll let you have 2 days. You're going to teach the same block 7 hours a day. So it teaches the same block 7 periods for 2 straight days, which is quite a challenge in itself.
I know.
But one thing I've also learned in the military, he who teaches learns.
That's right.
So by teaching, I have certainly learned a whole lot. I served in Vietnam as a captain, and I did not see the big picture as a captain. You know, I knew we were there. I was there in '72, and I was specifically an advisor. I was an American with a Vietnamese division. And we would go out for 5 to 10 days, and I was the only American. And I was an advisor to a South Vietnamese unit. But I didn't see the big picture, and I didn't realize the big picture until several years later, you know, lieutenant colonel or colonel, or even after I retired. So I teach the kids what took place on a timeline as best I could. And then also at the very end, because we lost 58,000 lives in Vietnam.
Oh, I know.
And people would say, then I understand, was it worth it? You know, that's the debate, was it worth it? You know, if you lost your son in Vietnam, you say, well, Lord, no, it's not worth it. But I now teach them the bigger picture. But you look what's taking place around the world other than just Vietnam. That lasted more than 20 years. And the Soviet Union and China spent all their assets in Vietnam rather than other third world countries. So you look at the Asiatic area and you see that those struggling countries after World War II have now established themselves in a democracy, whereas the Soviet Union and the communists had concentrated on all those other countries. Be a different situation today. So I try to tell the students that, and I'm very blunt sometimes, very straightforward, and I said, are there any questions? And I'll answer any question. First question they always ask you is, did you shoot anyone? You know, did you kill anyone? For some reason, high school kids, that's the most important thing. Did you kill anyone? Well, that's not a good question to ask, and it's certainly not a good question to answer. And the only response is, you know, I did what I was required to do. I did what my country asked me to do, and I was very proud of it. I'm a very patriotic person, and now then I've retired. And fortunately, when you see the national anthem played, you know, everybody goes like this, a retired military person I can salute. And I stand there at a football game or a basketball game when the national anthem is played, and I salute. And people look, what's he doing? You know, that's rendering thanks to my country. I'm saluting the flag.
That's the utmost respect.
The utmost patriotic respect. And I'm not ashamed to be a patriot.
Me either.
You know, and sometimes parents don't teach, be patriotic. Love your country, because we're going through some very troubled times now. And we need to love our country. We need to love our state. We need to love our community. And give back to the state, the country, and the community. And that's what I really try to do, whether it be the State Guard, substitute teaching, teaching for free, involvement with the church. I'm very involved with the VFW. The Veterans of Foreign War.
And speaking to other groups. And
I enjoy, my wife said, you know, that's all you do is try to recruit. That's all you want to talk about is the military. But a high school kid would meet with me, and immediately she thinks, well, you're going to try to recruit him into something. And I really just try to teach the benefits. Every child has benefits. You know, you can drop out of school at 17. You can take drugs. You can smoke. You can become pregnant. All those are your options. And someone needs to come online and say, this is what's right. It's the right thing to do for the following
Or this
reasons.
is what's going to happen when
If you do
do all
that.
these, when you make these choices.
Because I tell them real world stories that I've gone through in the last 35 or 45 years. Mistakes that I've made, and you're gonna don't make the same mistakes, and I was sucked into this or committed myself to that because no one told me these are your options.
Or nobody said you're making a footprint in your life that will never disappear. And so when you
Absolutely.
do that, you've got to think ahead. You can make amends for that, but that footprint
There's some
will
things
always,
you can recover from, and there's some things that's very, very difficult. But I contribute what little bit of knowledge I have, I think, to the military, the military training I've had, both active duty and the National Guard, involvement with them and the people that I've met. Because we're not just one person. I say plagiarize someone. You know, if you've got a teacher that you like, that you love, that they do great things, plagiarize them, copy them. You know, I'm not just James Avery. I'm 100 people. Because I'll see a good trait and I say, golly, I like that trait. And I steal it. And if I see a bad trait, I say, I don't want to ever do that. You know, that guy's really rude. And I make it a point, I don't ever want to do that because that's being rude. So if you're a realistic person, is a combination of all the good people that you've seen, your parents, your siblings, the people that you've been around, your church leadership, the adults that you're exposed to. You pick up their positive traits and you use them for you. So finally, when we're our age, grown adults, you're a combination of everything you've done for the last 40 or 50 years.
and every person that's ever touched
that
your
made a
life.
positive impact on you.
Right.
And that's a compliment to those individuals. And I hope somewhere there's some kid saying, I'm where I am because of influence that I've learned in his class or what he did. And I think that's the highest compliment you can receive.
I agree.
Not the accolades and not the medals that you get. Someone emulating you is the greatest form of flattery.
And one of the things, though, that I know from having known you is that you kept building on. You didn't just take this skill and learn it and get it marked off on your little sheet at your supervisor's office, but you kept saying, okay, now where is the next step?
What's the next challenge? Don't ever be content with where you are.
We're going to have to take a break right now. We'll be right back and continue this conversation with Colonel Avery.